All right, y'all, I'm going to do a real quick cap of how this journey began for me, and then I will start talking about my grandmother, which was the story I originally had posted that I would speak about. So, about a month ago, 6 weeks ago, somewhere around there, we got snowed in. And I had a friend of mine dare me to post a story, which I was like, I'm not that funny. She's like, no, you really are. So, on a dare and out of boredom, I posted a story that I was going to chop up into 3 series, and then I was going to be done doing the stories. That was all I was going to do. Well, within 24 hours, Hootie contacted me and said, hey, I think you got some talent. So he took on my stories, and now I'm on the Hootie platform, and that's how that journey began. And I want to give a real brief cap of it just because I think I'm going to talk about it in a different story and go into a little more depth. But that's just kind of the depth of how this channel started and how this journey began and how all this started for me. So we're going to get into it. And if I get emotional, please bear with me. This is a very touchy subject for me because it's about my grandmother, who I had a bond with and who I was close to. March 18th of 2020, and the reason why I'm doing this is because we just had her 1 year mark of her passing. I don't even want to call it an anniversary because it's oh Lord, here we go. It's nothing I'm happy about, but I understand it is part of life. And I debated on even doing this story, because I knew I wasn't going to get through this without shedding at least 1 or 2 tears. But, after speaking with Hootie and talking about it, one of the points he made that is very valid, we all go through loss in our lifetime, and it's part of life, and it's what we have to go through, and it's not fun. It's not something we want to have to deal with, but we have to. It's just part of life. So, March 18th, 2020, during the height of the COVID, got the phone call Grandma was passing, and in that moment, I just busted out crying because I knew it was a piece of my childhood, adolescence, and even adulthood that was coming to a close. And my grandmother played a very significant role in my life. And I've got wonderful memories. Just the best memories. My grandmother was a true Southern belle, classy, faithful woman, meaning she, was grounded in her faith. Anytime I had any good or bad or worrisome or anything, I could call Grandma, and I realized in that moment that was going to be taken away. Even though in the last year to 2 years of her life, I knew that, she couldn't speak, but she was still there to talk to. So the day of her funeral, I remember my grandfather was there. I was one of the first people to arrive, and I could tell he'd been crying. And my grandfather was very stoic my whole life, served in the war, served in the army. I never saw him cry. But that day when that day when I got to, when I saw him, that's when I got emotional because his life partner was gone. And they were just shy of, from what he told me, was just shy of being married 69 years. And he made a promise to her the day they married, which was he would be there the day she took her last breath. And he honored that. Promise. And she was a very significant role in our family, and that, it's sad because I miss her. Sorry. It's sad because I miss her and I want her back. But on the flip side, I know where she's at. And for that, I'm happy. Because what you all don't know is, before I had my oldest son, I had lost 2 children. I'd had 2 miscarriages, and that's something I will get into on a different story because I understand what that's like. Many women have had miscarriages. And the one thing you don't say to a woman that's had a miscarriage is, well, it wasn't a baby. No, let me tell you something. That's a baby to us. But we'll get into that in a different story. The last time I saw her was just a few weeks before she passed. And I remember telling her, I loved her, and that I have wonderful memories of her, and that I will pass them down to my kids, but that she had 2 grandchildren in heaven waiting for her, and that it was okay to go. And my grandmother in her last days, if I came in with makeup on or my hair done, she didn't recognize me. But if I ever came in with no makeup on, she would recognize me. And after I told her that, she reached up and hugged me. And I tried so hard not to cry in front of her because I just didn't want her to see me sad. Okay, I can do this. I can do this. I can do this. Part of me doing this journey, I want to be real with you guys as much as I can. This is probably going to be one of my harder stories, if not the hardest, to talk to y'all about. Sorry, I dropped my Kleenex. But, at the funeral, I was pretty good through the most. I shed some, and I cried some, of course. I lost my grandmother. But I was pretty good through the funeral up until the very, very end. They sang a hymn that I had completely forgotten about, and it jarred a memory that I had obviously forgotten about and stored in the back of my mind. And the memory I had was I was sitting at her breakfast bar, eating a snack with a cup of juice, watching her cook. As she sang that hymn. And I remember her walking around the breakfast bar and kissing me on my forehead. And telling me that she loved me, that I mattered, that I was beautiful, and that she was glad and grateful to be my grandmother. And in that moment, I lost it and I began to cry. Because I knew I was loved by my grandmother unconditionally. All the sweet, the sassy in me, the good, the bad, the pretty, the ugly. She loved unconditionally. And for those of you that have experienced that kind of love and that kind of bond and connection with somebody, it's an empty feeling when they're gone. Because in that moment, I wondered, will I ever feel that kind of love again in my lifetime? And I don't know. I sure hope so. But I had it at least once in my lifetime. And I'm grateful for that. I truly am. I will. There are moments it's hard for me, and then moments I have good days still. But it's part of life. It's the sucky part of life that we have to deal with. But it's life. So that's it. That's the end. I will make an announcement on social media next Friday. My next upcoming story. So I'm going to close it out. I always close it out with please and thank yous are a must. A smile never hurt no one. Be cognizant of the things you say and how you say them, because kindness is always priceless. I'll see y'all next week.